Giles Brown.
Let's talk.
Stupid Idiots. No, it's not a book about me. It's a philosophy of stupidity and complete and utter downright idiocy. It's been described as a witty yet thoughtful book. It is by respected professor at Oslo University, I believe, Lars Svendsen. I believe, Lars, are you receiving me?
I am.
Wonderful to have you with us this morning. Great to have you with. Just explain a bit of your background, because this isn't just you saying, well, everybody's an idiot, the world's completely gone to stupidity, because you're professor of, is it philosophy? I mean, explain your background if you could.
Yeah. I'm a professor of philosophy, and I've written books on numerous different topics such as evil, freedom, hope, loneliness, and so on. But of course, philosophy usually aims for wisdom. We're really going for the big thing. I'm a bit more modest here. I think philosophy could be a tool in attempting to become a little bit less stupid and idiotic. And we're all in the bad company here. So the book begins with the sentences, I'm an idiot. I'm stupid, so are you. I'm also an idiot, so are you. And then I try to explain why. So one could almost say it's a sort of self-help book, trying to become less stupid, less of an idiot.
The thing is, and here comes, my philosophy isn't up to what it should be. But who is it? The man who knows something that knows he knows nothing at all. So in a way, we should all be idiots.
Yeah, that's Socrates in ancient Athens, ancient Greece, who was said to be the wisest man in Athens because he knew that he knew nothing at all. So at least he knew something, whereas all the other people thought that they had loads of knowledge when they in fact were lacking in it. And of course, one of the sure signs of stupidity is, of course, the belief that one has a brilliant answer to everything, a willingness to answer all sorts of questions. And of course, we see these people a lot on social media, self-proclaimed experts in every conceivable field. And they simply have no grasp of their own limitations. So
and he said that, and it's just frozen on me.
This is also an invitation to modesty, and perhaps to using the phrase, I don't know, a bit more frequently.
But you see, the thing is, I'm going to turn my video camera off because you just froze there for a minute. So when I black out, not me personally, but when the screen goes black, please don't panic.
I'll black out mine as well.
Exactly. But we're both beautiful human beings, just so you know. But the thing is, the problem perhaps is that if you're stupid, everybody else knows you're stupid, but you don't. So, and also some of the most intelligent people that you meet can have no common sense. So, are we looking at people who don't listen to the other side of an argument, Lars?
Yeah, that's very typical for the stupid, that unwillingness to listen at all. And that's fairly common among rather intelligent people. I mean, say that you're at the forefront of cancer research, or you're a brilliant mathematician. You can also be really, really stupid and an utter idiot in so many other fields. Because you have this mistaken belief that because you're gifted in one area, you're automatically gifted in all sorts of other areas. But of course, that does not follow at all.
So when we're looking at people, so how will we define? Should we all go back to basics? Should we all say, okay, we're going to draw a line here? I'm only going to concentrate on one subject. I mean, it's ego as well, isn't it, Lars? So this is a thing, because you get carried away and you think, well, I know everything and I'm just brilliant, and I've got a Lamborghini and I live in Marbella and I've got a 20-year-old girlfriend, so therefore I know what makes life work.
Yeah, ego is a large part of it. You tend to become really stupid when your ego gets in the way of your own thinking. And then you think that, everything I need is simply to consult my inner life, my emotions, my immediate thoughts or impulses, and that will give me the truth, which of course is nonsense. But if we are to line up how I define these concepts, I think that stupidity, I define that simply as thoughtlessness. You're not using your faculty of thought at all. You simply take things for granted because someone has told you so. And that's, of course, where we all begin as children. Somebody has to teach us things. But then we can try to develop some sort of our own understanding of ourselves and the world. The problem is that when we do so, we tend to make all sorts of idiotic mistakes, which leads us astray. For instance, due to confirmation bias, that we place far more weight on all the things that confirms the beliefs that we already have, and disregard everything that should tell us that we're probably not correct here. So we have all these very common mistakes, and we all do them. That's why I say we're all really included in this bad company of stupid and idiots.
One of the things that this is there, because we're saying people are thinking, but thinking, we need to define thinking, because a lot of conversations now, people aren't thinking, they are reacting. So they're not taking the pause and going away and thinking. They are just, because of the world we live in, where everything is now straight away social media, they don't think, they react.
Yeah. And one thing that's very typical is that we base our responses a lot more on emotions than we used to do. We think that because I'm angry for some reason, then I'm in the right, that my anger is in itself some sort of justification, that I have a valid point. But of course, you could be angry for completely wrong reasons. I mean, consulting your inner oracle, your emotional life, will usually lead you astray. You can listen to that voice, but you also have to listen to others. Because when you really try to think, you also have to try to step outside of yourself, getting a few more perspectives than the one you happen to have. And then you might become a little bit wiser. And the third category in my book, which combines the two first, namely the stupid idiots, they are completely locked off from anybody else. They believe that whatever beliefs they have, they are carved in stone. They are, by definition, right because they happen to have them. And of course, trying to have a discussion with such a person is usually futile. If you, for instance, say you discuss a medical question and you point to something in a respected medical journal, they will usually justify their own point of view by pointing to a YouTube video made by an utter fool who really hasn't studied the phenomenon at all in a careful scientific manner. So discussions tend to go astray then. And I must say that the reason why I wrote this book was, in a way, trying to figure out how an old friendship had gone completely wrong. Because one of my closest, oldest friends had become more and more deeply entrenched in all sorts of wild, crazy conspiracy theories. And after a while, it became clear that we were really living in different worlds. We really could not communicate sensibly with each other anymore. And what I tried to figure out was, how could this go so wrong? What happened here? So even though I think that the book is quite funny, it's also serious, and it has a sort of sad backstory.
But one of the things with this is the fact that because we used to debate, I was a member of the debating society, I am the nerd who spent his entire time looking through encyclopedias before the internet, but you would debate these opinions, or if you saw a friend and you had an argument, it was face to face, and you go, you know what, let's just leave it. I've got friends who are massive Trump supporters, bless them. Morning, Jason. We don't touch on that, but but because of the agency, people now have, remember the great thing, the internet, we have going to have all this wonderful information at the touch of a button, and we have all sorts of information now. And if, as I always say, if you have a theory that the world is run by an evil cabal of 12-foot high hamsters who live underground and call themselves Nigel, you will find a website there. So it reflects.
There will definitely be a community devoted to that specific belief, of course. Yeah.
But there have always been. But I mean, there have always been idiots. I mean, there were always fools in court who would speak the truth to the king. They got away with it. So idiocy can be useful, but it's when it's entrenched idiocy and not receiving the other person's point of view, because we have to evolve. We have to be able to change our minds because we're not always right.
Yeah, and of course, this is why this book is trying to get a message across to the reader. It's perfectly fine to point out the stupidity or idiocy of others. I mean, that's of course allowed if they are stupid or idiots. But in the Mount of the Sermon, of course, there is this brilliant observation that you first have to take a look at this huge thing that's stuck in your own eye before you start to try to point out the minor pieces of wood in other people's eyes. So first you have to look at yourself. So try to become more aware of your own limitations. Try to listen to others. Try to work things out a bit more carefully. But really, most of all, try to be a little bit modest, because the surest path to stupid idiocy is simply arrogance. So if you manage to deal with that, you won't get rid of all stupidity and idiocy in your life, but you'll be on the path to at least reduce it somewhat.
I suppose the other thing is the fact that to get out in the world, to listen to speeches, to read books, to read newspapers, to go back and read what people were thinking 100 years ago, 200 years ago. We mentioned, Socrates. Many of us think he might be a Brazilian football player, but you know what I'm saying? Because these truths down the ages kind of ring true, and if there's one thing you will discover, it's that humanity hasn't really changed that much, and our views haven't really changed, and the important things haven't really changed that much, have they, Lars?
No, haven't changed that much, and I certainly think there is so much to be learned also from older thinkers, older philosophers, but we should also be aware of one thing. They were also stupid and idiots. I mean, nobody's free from that. That's why I also have a chapter towards the end of the book entitled The Idiocy of Philosophy, all the most idiotic conceptions philosophers have had. So even though you're really well trained in philosophy, logical thinking, and so on, you will be led astray. And the only thing that can save you is actually using your ears, listening to others, and then thinking critically about what they have to say to you, but being receptive to the idea that they may in fact be right, you may in fact be wrong. And in my case, I mean, some of the most interesting book projects I've had was when I discovered that pretty much everything I thought I knew about the topic was completely wrong. So I really had to get back to the start and figure things out. And of course, then you're moving along, you're developing.
I mean,
admitting that you're wrong, I mean, that shows that you're actually thinking. It's not shameful. It's demonstration of real progress.
But again, we go back to that whole thing about ego and I'm right, and I've got 3,000 followers who say the same thing. But admitting that you're wrong, and trust me, Lars, I've done this several times. I do a phone-in show, and people often point me right to the general amusement of everybody else. But if you are wrong, you learn by your mistakes. You learn, and you look at other views. And I'm lucky enough to live in an international area, and I've had other viewpoints which have completely changed the way I look at the world. And I look back at some of the things I believed even 10 years ago and go, blimey, I was wrong on that one.
Yeah. And the Danish physicist Niels Bohr once said that an expert is a person who has made all the mistakes that can be made within a given field.
Yeah,
and I think that's actually quite precise. The problem, of course, with stupid idiots as compared to mere stupid or mere idiots is, of course, that that idea of being wrong does not even strike, the possibility of that does not even strike the stupid idiot. He's completely unreceptive. Does that mean that stupid idiots never change? Nah, I mean, we all have our revelations. We've all experienced suddenly being struck by this insight. Oh my God, what a complete, utter idiot I've been. Unfortunately, such revelations are far too rare. I wish I had them more frequently.
And I suppose the other thing is the fact that the one group of people who have come in for more abuse than anybody else is an expert, but I mean professors, editors of newspapers, or some of them anyway, historians, and it's extremely. I speak to them and they just shake their heads because they have dedicated their lives to these. I mean, the medical profession, obviously because of what happened, and my cousins are surgeons, and they've dedicated their lives to the medical profession, and then they get somebody going, yes, but if I take this or I follow, I don't know, I eat frog something or other, I will regrow my hair, or my leg will grow back, or something like that. And that is the sort of, if you like, the idiocy that gets them the most.
Yeah, they will often say, I have done my own research, which usually means using Google and checking out a few things on Facebook, which does not compare to a proper, careful scientific study of something. But, of course, we have this called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Okay. Which is interesting, that the less you know about something, the more you tend to overestimate your knowledge about it. So the problem is that if you really don't know much at all about something, you will have this tendency to believe that you actually know a lot. You are too incompetent to grasp your own incompetence. And of course, that's tricky.
Yes, but the other thing is the fact because people don't read. Again, people don't take the time. They don't read. No. They don't think. They react, or they see a headline and go, "There you go, I'm right," rather than going through the whole medical paper, or in my case, the whole history book. And so, because they have that thought, they need the world to confirm to that thought, Lars.
Yeah. And of course, if the world does not confirm their ideas, they tend to become terribly offended. It's as if they have been violated in some sense, or others. And I'm not sure if those kind of people are more common today than they used to be. It might be that they're simply way more visible in social media and so on.
Yeah, exactly. So when you told people you were writing this book, Stupid Idiots, what was their reaction, Lars?
Well, some were offended and said that this was not a book that in any sort of way could have any kind of relevance for them. And of course, the people who have that reaction are the ones who really need the book most desperately. Others thought it was funny, and of course I pointed out that this is about all of us. I'm not singling out the stupid idiots over there. I'm talking about our own inclinations, the sort of shortcomings we all have. But there are lights on the horizon. This book became a bestseller when I published it, so quite a lot of people were at least ready to take a closer look at their own stupidity and idiocy.
The book is called Stupid Idiots. It's by Lars Svendsen. Lars, if people want to find you online and be enlightened, where's the best place to find you?
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on my website, larsvendsen.no, but of course that's in Norwegian because I haven't gotten around to make the English version yet, or so on. Yeah.
The book, and you can order it by our own virtual bookstore. The book is called Stupid Idiots. It's by Lars Svendsen. Lars, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.